11 spine-chilling midnight shift horrors exposed. Terrifying stories that will haunt your nights. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting an eerie glow over the aisles of the 24-hour convenience store where Lily worked the graveyard shift. Shadows danced along the shelves, seeming to whisper of untold terrors lurking just out of sight. As she counted the minutes until dawn, her heart raced in tandem with the ticking clock, a relentless reminder of her vulnerability. Outside, the sleepy suburban town slumbered, blissfully unaware of the horrors that haunted the stillness of the night. Every creak of the floorboards reverberated through Lily's core, amplifying the dread coiling in her stomach. She tried to shake off the unease as she stocked shelves, but nearby missing persons posters clung to telephone poles like grim beacons, warning of hidden dangers. The faces of the lost stared back at her, eyes hollow with despair, and she could almost feel their desperation seep into her bones. "Hey, Lily! How's it going?" Jamie, her coworker, chirped from the other side of the counter, a little too cheery in the silence. He always seemed to know too much, his gaze a tad too probing. Was that concern in his voice, or something more sinister? Lily forced a smile. It was hard not to feel the weight of his watchful eyes, judging and perhaps even knowing more than he let on. A chilling draft slipped through the entrance, making her shiver. The store was quiet apart from the whir of the freezers and the distant sound of cars humming on the highway. Each customer who entered sent a jolt of anxiety through her. Their faces masked in the fluorescent light felt like they belonged to someone else, someone lost. She clenched her fists, waiting for her shift to end, praying to catch a glimpse of Max's bright smile when she got home. Just then, a sudden clatter broke the stillness. Lily spun around. A display of chips lay toppled on the floor, further darkening her already racing heart. "Just the wind," she whispered to herself, but the unease pulsed through her as she knelt, picking up the scattered bags. Was something watching her? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The unease intensified as the clock ticked further into the night. Genuine dread set in when whispers filled the aisles again, a strange echo of her name that stopped her cold. They swirled around her, teasing and tormenting, pulling her thoughts of safety into darkness. The laugh of her neighbor, the community councilman, echoed in her mind. She had once considered him a friend, now his smile haunted her as she recalled his sudden outbursts during their last chat. The same dark stories about disappearances played on a loop in her mind, stories that connected him to the very shadows lurking outside. Then, like a trap snapping shut, reality hit. Where was Max? He hadn't returned home, and an icy fear gripped her. Racing through the empty aisles, her breaths quickened, panic clawing at her throat. "Max!" she called, but the only answer was silence. The haunting, whispering echoes grew louder as she slipped outside, calling in desperation, the shadows enveloping her. As she stepped into the woods behind the store, Max's voice teased at her ears, luring her deeper. Heart pounding, she followed the sound, straining to see through the darkness. But what lay ahead? Would she uncover the truth of her neighbor's deception, or would the darkness close around her forever? With every step, the question lingered fiercely: what horrors loomed just beyond the tree-line, waiting for her to slip further into their grip? The deeper Lily ventured into the woods, the more claustrophobic the shadows became. Trees loomed like sentinels, their gnarled branches casting long, claw-like shadows that scratched at her mind. The whisper of leaves seemed to form words, mocking her fear. Max, Max was all they echoed, a cruel reminder of the urgency clawing at her chest. Max! She shouted again, her voice trembling in the suffocating dark. The only response was the rustling of branches and the distant hoot of an owl, but her instincts screamed that something was terribly amiss. With each futile step forward, dread sank its teeth deeper into her core. Why had she followed that voice? It felt so real, Yet now she stood isolated, her phone's light dim and sputtering, as if the darkness was pulling in every ounce of brightness she clung to. Then she spotted movement. A shadow darted between the trees, quick and fleeting. "Max?" she called out again, her heart hammering as she stumbled forward, feeling a growing sense of panic surge within her. The fleeting shape seemed so familiar, yet fear held her back, warning her to tread carefully. Maybe this was a trap. Suddenly, a chill ran through the air, sharp and biting. It struck like ice against her skin, and she froze. The whispering returned, louder now, each syllable dripping with menace. "Come play with us," it taunted from somewhere deep in the darkness. Cold sweat beaded on her brow. She clenched her fists, trying to summon courage, but dread washed over her like a breaking wave. Lily whirled around, scanning her surroundings. Shadows flickered at the edges of her vision, slipping just out of sight whenever she turned her head. Her breaths came in shallow gasps as fear threatened to swallow her whole. Was Jamie watching her, or was it her neighbor? What was he hiding? The tangled roots beneath her feet snagged at her, but she pushed through, desperate to escape the suffocating grip of the trees. Then she heard it, a soft crunching sound behind her. Lily spun around, heart racing, adrenaline pumping through her veins. All she could think about was Max. She had to find him. Ignoring the tremors in her legs, she bolted towards the sound, pushing through the underbrush. "Max!" she screamed, voice breaking. As she broke through a dense thicket, she stumbled into a small clearing, moonlight spilling eerie silver over the ground. Her breath caught in her throat at the sight before her. Chilled, she stepped forward hesitantly. There, illuminated by the pale light, was a clearing littered with abandoned toys, toy trucks, dolls, and stuffed animals, their once cheery expressions faded, with dirt and grime covering them. An inexplicable dread washed over her. Had the whispers led her here intentionally? This unholy playground stank of forgotten things. Just as she turned to retreat, a low voice echoed in the air, "You found us, we've been waiting." Before she could react, shadows poured from the trees, creeping towards her. They twisted and spun, forming grotesque shapes that lurked just beyond the reach of the light. Lily's heart raced as she stumbled back. "No, no!" she shouted, realizing too late that she had walked straight into the trap. The dark figures closed in, voices all around her blending, chanting, "Play with us forever." As a hand brushed against her arm, a cold dread washed over her. The realization hit her like a blow, she was not alone here. Just behind one of the figures, a slumped shape flickered into view. It was Max, but his eyes held no recognition. Only darkness. And the cold whisper returned a promise, a threat. "You're one of us now." What had she unleashed? What did it mean to be trapped in a world filled with shadows? The only thing she knew for certain was that she could not turn back. The night had claimed her, and she was about to discover the true depth of its horrors. Lily's heart pounded in her chest as the shadows pulsed around her. Max's form was just ahead, but his eyes slumped deep within their sockets, blacker than the midnight sky, hollow shells echoing a silent torment. She reached out, desperate to shake him from whatever grip had taken hold of him. "Max! It's me!" But there was no flicker of recognition. The oppressive darkness thickened, wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of giggles and taunts echoing off the trees. "Join us, play with us forever." Fear consumed her. The figures, now more defined, danced just beyond the light. They twisted into grotesque caricatures of children, faded faces twisted in eternal glee, limbs moving awkwardly, impossibly, like marionettes with frayed strings. One stepped closer, revealing cracked porcelain skin, a mischievous grin that oozed malice. "Why are you doing this?" Lily shouted, her voice barely breaking through the chorus. The words clung to the air, heavy and desperate. A laugh, sharp and echoing, answered her. "Because you listened, because you came. You're just like us now, lost in the dark." The last words sent ice shivers racing down her spine. Panic surged as she felt the shadows firm around her, homing in, yet her eyes remained locked on Max, his limp body teetering between the figures. She had to save him. Max! Her cry became a raw, primal scream. In that instant, when all hope seemed lost, a spark ignited in the depths of his eyes. A flicker of recognition. Lily? He whispered, his voice fragile, but it was enough. Not for long, but enough. Max! Fight it! Come back to me! In an outpouring of desperation, she lunged toward him, ready to pull him from the abyss. But the dark figures surged forward, grinning with teeth sharpened like razors, blocking her path. They hissed together, an insected chorus of raspy breaths. You can't take him. He belongs to us. Terror swelled inside her. She made a choice then, one she realized she wouldn't survive if she hesitated. With every ounce of courage, Lily pushed through, tearing past the illuminated shadows. She reached for Max. Their fingers brushed. An electric jolt surged between them. She felt the pull of the darkness fight against her, but she wouldn't yield. Together, they were stronger. Stay with me, she cried, pulling him closer as the shadows recoiled, shrieking. Just then, a blinding light broke through the suffocating darkness. A split second, a beam piercing through the trees like a knife. It illuminated the figures, their faces twisted in horror. They howled and shrank back, screaming against the ferocity of the light that threatened to expose their every secret. What is this? One of the figures hissed, inching toward the edge of the light. You shouldn't be here. Max's eyes briefly cleared, like a cloud being lifted. But the light flickered, vulnerable. Lily! We have to go. He pulled back, dragging her with him. But as they turned, deeper shadows pulled at the edge of the clearing. New forms emerged, more grotesque than before, their monstrous bodies blocking the path back. Their eyes glinted with the same darkness that had entrapped Max. You'll never leave the darkness, Lily, you're one of us now, they rasped, voices echoing with sinister joy. Max's grip tightened. We can't look back. Trust me. He started to drag her away, but the shadows shifted, closing in, ready to reclaim what they had lost. The overwhelming dread pressed down, squeezing the very air from her lungs. The whispering had transformed into an agonizing cacophony, each syllable a torment of her impending fate. Catch her, keep her, she'll never escape. Just as they edged towards the light, Lily caught a glimpse from the corner of her eye. One of the figures had just stepped forward, revealing something glinting in its hands. A child's toy? No, it was an old, rusted key. But before she could say anything, darkness thrashed violently around them, blinding her mind. Max! We have to get out, she begged as they stumbled backward, the shadows pressing against them, hungry. But as they ran, that horrible, cold voice whispered in her ear, You've only just begun. What was that key meant for? Was it the answer to their escape, or something far more sinister? Desperation clawed at her. Would they be swallowed by the shadows forever, or could they find the truth hidden beneath the darkness? The shadows pulsed with an insatiable hunger, closing in like hungry wolves around their prey. Lily could feel the cold breath of the darkness against her neck, and each whispered taunt wound tighter around her heart. This way! Max shouted, pulling her deeper into the woods, away from the grasping claws. But the figures were relentless, shifting and slinking through the trees, their haunting laughter ringing like a chorus of broken bells. The twisted shapes seemed to morph, becoming more sinister with every step they took. Each face was a mask of joy turned to madness, a mockery of how they once lived. Lily! Max's voice broke through the din. We have to find that key. Key? She blinked, her mind racing. What key? The one they showed you. He was panting, the panic raw in his voice. The glimmer of that rusted object was seared into her mind now, an image that urged her on despite the terror. It must have meant something significant, a way out, perhaps. As they hurried forward, fragments of the environment blurred past, the trees twisting and bending into grotesque shapes, like whispers from her nightmares now manifesting. The laughter turned into an eerie chant, reverberating in the hollow ground beneath her feet. Lily, Max, stay with us forever. Suddenly, the ground gave way beneath them, a hollow thud resonating as they fell into a pit, landing in a pile of damp leaves. Max groaned beside her, an echo of vulnerability that sent a chill down her spine. She scrambled to her feet, frantically glancing around. The light above was a dim memory, far out of reach. "Where are we?" Max murmured, rubbing his head. Lily scanned the oppressive shadows closing in. The figures loomed above, leaner, more monstrous in the absence of light. One of them pointed, the fingers elongated and menacing, whispering secrets of despair. "You're trapped here. The darkness is your new home. We have to find that key," she shouted, her voice defiant. "It has to be here." Max nodded but searched around, confusion clouding his eyes. But it could be anywhere in this pit. Suddenly, a glint caught Lily's eye. It was small, half hidden under a twisted root. With frantic hands, she dug through the leaves and clawed at the damp earth. Her heart raced as she unearthed a small, rusty key, its teeth sharp and worn. She clutched it tightly, feeling a pulse of energy reverberate through her fingers. "I found it!" she yelled, hope threading its way back into her chest. But as she glanced up, the figures circled the pit, their delight palpable. The air stank with their eager anticipation. "You shouldn't have done that," one hissed, a ghoulish smile spreading across its face. "What are you?" Before she could finish, the key began to tremble in her grasp. A wave of energy surged from it, a cold wind blowing through the pit. The shadows shrieked, recoiling from the key as if it burned. "Stop!" they shrieked. "You can't use that." "What does it do?" Max gasped, scrambling next to her, eyes wide with fear. "It's a piece of something, but what?" She could barely breathe, overwhelmed by the shadows and their sinister intent. They pressed closer, and the key sparked again, flickering with bright light, the kind that could banish a nightmare. But where to direct its power? "We need to get out. We can't let them take us," Max yelled, his grip on her arm tightening. She felt the weight of his fear pressing down. The darkness was squeezing the very hope from their hearts. Lily locked eyes with him, and despite everything, she felt a hint of clarity amid the chaos. "The key has to open something. Maybe it's a door back to the light." The figures shrieked, a horrible chorus of anger and despair as they lunged forward. "You'll never escape. The key isn't meant for you." Lily held it high, the key glinting ominously in the shadows. "It has to be now, Max. We're running out of time." But as she prepared to turn toward the unseen door, a deeper darkness slithered forward from the edges, more than just shadows that had come to claim them. "You haven't seen the truth of this place, not yet." Terror congealed in her throat. What truth lay hidden in the darkness? And would they survive long enough to discover it? The darkness thrummed around them, pulsing like a living organism, and Lily could feel its weight pressing against her, thick and suffocating. Max stood beside her, fear etched across his face, sweat glistening on his brow. The shadows continued to swirl, hunger evident in their grotesque forms. "What truth?" Lily shouted, gripping the key tighter, its metal cool against her palm. "What did it mean? What did it awaken?" The figures halted for a moment, their shapes blurring into liquid night, then one stepped forward, its face twisted in a grin that should not exist. "This place is a reflection," it rasped, each word a dagger. "A mirror of what you hide inside." Lily's heart raced, pounding against her ribs, because deep down, she knew. The fear they were running from wasn't just the shadows, it was something more. Something that lingered in the edges of her mind, clamoring to escape. "Max, it's not just about escaping," she murmured, the weight of realization clattering against her thoughts. "It's about facing something. About seeing the truth." The chilling laughter crescendoed as if they had unknowingly spoken a dark incantation. "You know her!" another shrieked, and Lily felt the shadows wrapping around her like a shroud. "You both know her." What do you mean?" Max faltered, stumbling back as his world tilted and spun. The shadows danced closer, reaching out with twisted arms, whispering haunting words full of malice. "You will find her!" the dark figure exclaimed, and at its words, all sound turned to static. Lily felt dizzy as visions flashed in her mind, a little girl, scared and alone, her face mirroring her own reflection. A moment in time swallowed by darkness. "Lily, stay with me!" Max gasped, his voice breaking through her trance, but she was lost in the memory. Don't let it take you. I can't, she whispered, as tears blurred her vision. The key trembled in her hand, its power beckoning her to remember. We have to go deeper. Gripping Max's arm, she turned to the edge of the pit. The shadows recoiled, shrieking in anger and desperation. You'll regret this. There's no escape once you see. Ignoring their cries, she forced herself to think past the dread. The key wasn't just a way out, it was a way through. A way to confront what she had buried deep within her. Lily! Max shouted, pulling away from her. Don't! You don't know what could happen! But she couldn't stop. The vision was overwhelming, fueling her resolve. I have to do this. She sought the door she felt was hidden in the dark. Come with me, Max. Together, they edged closer to the murky wall of shadows, an insidious abyss that pulsed with a life of its own. Just as she reached out to touch the swirling darkness, the key flared, piercing through the gloom. The figures wailed, their forms distorting into shrieks of rage. Stop! They cried. You can't unlock that. As the key shone brighter, Lily felt a surge of warmth flood her veins. It was their fear driving her, feeding the power of the key. Max, now! She yelled, her heart hammering with renewed purpose. With a booming crack, the wall of shadows began to shift, unveiling a dim light behind it, the door to a long-forgotten truth. But just as they were about to step through, tendrils of darkness lashed out violently, catching Lily's wrist and jerking her back. It will destroy you! A voice screamed, more frantic than before. Max lunged, grabbing her other arm. Don't let it pull you down! Fight, Lily! The chaos spiraled into a whirlwind around them, shadows swirling into a cacophony of twisted memories, an echo of her past clawing at her soul. Lily! Max called desperately, his grip tightening. In that moment, the final pull snapped her mind to attention. I have to choose. As she focused on the key, she made a decision, knowing that whatever the truth was, she couldn't turn back. With every ounce of strength, she shouted, I choose to face the darkness. A bright light burst from the key, illuminating the pit, and in that blinding glow, shadows screamed, unraveling like smoke in the wind. But the moment the light engulfed her, it burned. Would she emerge on the other side, or would she become another lost echo in the darkness? The darkness stirred again, with faint whispers, you think you can escape, but the truth will never set you free. As the tunnel of light flickered, uncertainty wrapped around her like a chain. Lily shut her eyes tight, heart racing. What awaited her in the depths? Would she step back into the light, or into the abyss she feared the most? White-hot pain enveloped Lily as she stumbled through the blinding light. It was a burning sensation, as if her very soul were being seared. The whispers faded, replaced with a cacophony of screams both inside her head and echoing from the shadows behind her. She gasped, panic clawing at her throat as she found her footing. Lily! Max's voice pierced through the chaos, tethering her to reality. She forced her eyes open, flinching against the brightness. Surrounding them stood figures of light, each shimmering like sunlit reflections on water, but their eyes were filled with sorrow and dread. Where are we? Max shouted, the tremor in his voice sharpening his panic. Lily, an anguished voice seeped into the light, echoing from the figures. You must remember. The shadows loomed just outside the glow, swirling like a tempest. Their shrieks morphed into a guttural chant, the darkness clinging to her memories. You don't know the truth, they hissed. You can't face it. I can! She screamed back, defiance swelling within her. But doubt writhed in her stomach, gnawing at her resolve. I have to remember. Max steadied her, his hand firm on her shoulder. Together, right? We're together, Lily. We can handle this. But even as he said it, the shadows clawed at the edges of the light, eager to breach their sanctuary. Each shadow was a fragment of fear, regret, and hidden shame, things she had buried deep, things she had never wanted to confront. The specters of light flickered, their forms shifting as if they were struggling against the encroaching darkness. You must choose, they whispered. The truth or the void. One way leads to freedom, the other to despair. Emotions twisted inside her. A memory began to surface, one she had stifled and quashed for years. A dark-haired girl, no older than 7, waiting alone in a corner, her eyes wide with unshed tears. "Do you see her?" a spectre pleaded. "Do you see the child you left behind?" Lily's breath itched. "No, I can't, I didn't. You must," another figure insisted, its voice like a soft wind caressing her skin. "You must confront the truth of your heart." The shadows roared outside the light. "Don't listen!" they shrieked. "You'll drown in sorrow." "Lily!" Max's voice trembled. "Please! We need to go." But something pulled at her, a tether to the little girl who needed her. "I can't leave her." The key dangled from her hand, shiny and cold, a reminder of power and choice. It pulsed with a warm glow, resonating with her heartbeat. "Lily! We'll find another way," Max urged, but there was desperation in his voice, a hint of something darker lurking beneath his words. Without thinking, she stepped toward the glowing figures, determination igniting in her heart. "I choose to face it. I choose her." The instant she said it, the light exploded, and she felt the girl's sorrow wash over her. The darkness shrieked in rage, and the tendrils wrapped tighter around her as the light split into countless shards, revealing the past she had tried to hide. Suddenly, she was standing in that familiar room again, the little girl staring back, her eyes brimming with loneliness. "It's okay," the child whispered. "You came back." A wave of dread swept through Lily. She felt the ground beneath her shift, and cold breath crept along her spine. The shadows were closing in. "No! No!" Panic surged. "I can't lose her again." But the whispers of the shadows brushed her like fingernails against skin, sending icy shivers through her. "You can only choose one, the truth or yourself." With her heart in her throat, Lily reached for the girl, the warmth of their connection igniting a spark of hope. As she grasped the child's small hands in hers, she felt the shadows pull tighter, wind whipping around them, a maelstrom of darkness ready to consume them both. "Will you face the truth?" Max shouted, fear etched across his face. "Lily! Don't let it take you!" But the girl smiled, a light in the consuming dark. "You are never alone." With one last breath, Lily closed her eyes, ready to embrace the pain and clarity that awaited her, the choice hanging heavy between fear and love. "Lily!" The scream echoed, a final plea as the shadows lunged, and then everything went black. What would she uncover in the void? Would she find her way back to the light or surrender to the darkness? The darkness wrapped around Lily like a suffocating shroud. She felt lost, weightless, drifting through an endless nothingness that gnawed at her sanity. But there was a flicker, a faint warmth that pulled her from the void, a gentle tug that grew stronger as she focused. Gradually, shapes began to form. A dim light flickered ahead, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. The air tasted stale, heavy with an oppressive silence that screamed of despair. Was she in a dream? A nightmare? Questions spiraled in her mind as fear clawed at her chest. "Lily," a voice echoed, distant but familiar like a lifeline in the dark. It was Max. "Max! Where are you?" Her own voice sounded thin and distant, lost in the echoing void. "Keep moving," he urged, desperation threading through his tone. "Just ahead." "I can't see you." Panic clawed deeper into her heart, and she stumbled forward breathless. The air thickened, and shadows writhed around her, swirling ominously. "Stay back," Lily murmured under her breath, her hands instinctively balling into fists, ready to fight. Each step forward felt like a battle against unseen forces that sought to hold her back. The light flickered again, and suddenly she found herself standing in a dimly lit hallway lined with splintered doors. The smell of dampness and decay seeped into her senses, constricting her throat. "What is this place?" she thought, dread curling in her stomach. The walls appeared to pulse, as if alive, pulsating in rhythm with her racing heartbeat. "Lily! You need to find me." The urgency in Max's voice pushed her onward. But with each step, the shadows grew bolder, whispering temptations that pierced her resolve. Turn back, they hissed, hot breath surrounding her. You belong to us. Embrace the darkness and find peace. Peace? She spat, defiance flooding her veins. You're lying. The whispers intensified, their tempo quickening, forming sinister melodies that echoed with every footfall. Images flashed before her eyes, memories she longed to forget. The abandoned playground, the laughter of children silenced, and that little girl, alone and terrified. Face me, she commanded, directing her anger at the shadows. Show yourselves. As if awakened by her bravery, the darkness twisted and coalesced into tortured faces, eyes wide with unspeakable sorrow. You are us, they wept, their wails cold as ice. You can't escape. The hallway narrowed, the walls closing in, and despair clutched at her throat. No! Lily shouted, grappling with her fear. You don't get to define me. Your past haunts you, they taunted. You cannot hide. She cannot be saved. Shut up. You don't know anything about me. Fury ignited her spirit, but it felt so small against the weight of her memories clawing at her, wanting her to submit. Come back to us, the shadows crooned, their fingers stretching toward her in agonizing supplication. Suddenly, a light sparked ahead, brighter than before, breaking through the gloom. It filled her with a warmth she desperately craved. Lily! Max's voice was clearer now, stronger. I'm here. Come to me. Heart pounding, she turned toward the light, running, though the whispers clamored louder, a discordant chorus urging her to stop. But she couldn't surrender. Not now. Not ever. The brightness enveloped her, and as she neared, it erupted in a blinding burst of energy, revealing Max. He was on the other side of a frayed veil, a bridge between darkness and light. Lily! Grab my hand! She leaped forward, reaching with every ounce of strength. But as their fingers brushed, the shadows surged, clawing at Max's retreating form, intent on dragging him into the abyss. Lily, no! He shouted as the darkness closed in around him. Max! The name ripped from her throat, desperation consuming her. The shadows shifted, forming a grotesque visage that bore down on her, intent to obliterate her hope. You can save when it whispered. Choose wisely, her heart twisted in agony. One life against another, truth against love, the ultimate decision. Lily's breath caught, the weight of the world crashing down. No, no, and as tendrils reached for Max, ready to drag him into the suffocating void, she felt the flicker of that forgotten girl, her light amidst the darkness. Do it! The child's voice echoed in her mind. Choose the truth. With a final surge of determination, Lily clenched her teeth, steeling herself against the insatiable shadows. I choose! She screamed, the words laced with power. I choose love! In that moment, the ground trembled, the shadows recoiling as bright light erupted from her core, illuminating the hall and shattering the darkness around her. But in the split second between salvation and destruction, her vision blurred, and she gasped, as a new terror coiled within. What just happened? Had she saved Max? Or had she sealed their doom by embracing the truth? As light faded to gray, the shadows began to whisper once more, unyielding and insidious. Would she ever escape their grasp, or was she destined to be consumed by the horrors of her past? Lily felt the world sway beneath her, the light flickering like a dying flame. Her heart raced, pounding against her ribcage as uncertainty filled her. Had she truly chosen love, or had it been a desperate grasp at a fading dream? Suddenly, the brightness shattered, replaced by a foreboding murk that wrapped around her once more. The shadows hissed in delight, as if savoring her fear. You think you can escape? They taunted, their voices slithering through her mind. You are ours now. Max's face dimmed in her memory, but she could still feel the warmth of his hand, the strength of his presence. No! I have to find him! She shouted, her voice quaking yet fierce. She stepped forward, the hallway stretching into an abyss. Each splintered door mirrored her thoughts, fractured, broken, and lost. Clenching her fists, she pressed on, mentally battling the creeping dread that threatened to snuff out her resolve. Stay focused, Lily, she whispered to herself. But the shadows twisted, weaving grotesque forms that mocked her determination. "He has gone," they crooned, their wails a chilling echo of despair. "Now you belong to us." In a moment of desperation, she caught sight of a door slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness clamoring for her attention. It beckoned at the edges of her awareness, whispering promises of power and release. Lily, a disembodied voice called out, familiar and haunting. It resonated like a distant bell tolling doom. "You can come inside, learn the truth." She hesitated, breath hitching in her throat. "What truth?" "The truth of your past," it replied, the shadows swirling to form a familiar silhouette, a little girl with hollowed eyes. Her heart twisted, for she recognized that child. "I can show you everything. You know the secrets. You can't run from them." "Get away from her!" Lily screamed. But the child simply tilted her head, an eerie smile dancing across her lips. "Join us. Understand who you really are." Terror gripped Lily, her own childhood memories flooding her mind like a torrential wave. She could feel the weight of those moments' loss, guilt, memories she had buried deep within, now clawing their way back to the surface. And with each step toward that door, the shadows shifted uncomfortably, closing in like a predator stalking its prey. "No!" she yelled, reversing her steps. "I won't fall for your tricks." The pulsing darkness flared with rage. "You cannot deny what you are. You cannot run from yourself." It surged forward, tendrils slipping around her wrists, pulling her toward the waiting door. Panic surged through her veins. "Let me go!" With sheer willpower, she dug her heels into the ground, wrenching back against the grasp of the shadows. Images bombarded her mother's tears, the laughter of her friends fading into silence, the horrors that she thought were long confined to the dust of memory. But in the depths of the darkness, there was still a glimmer of light. Max's face, his outstretched hand, the promise of safety. "I must keep going," she gasped, feeling strength seep back into her limbs. Gathering everything inside her, she pushed against the shadows. "I choose my own path," she declared, igniting a flicker of defiance. "I will not be defined by my past." With that, the darkness shuddered, letting out a horrifying shriek. The weight began to lift, if only for a moment. But the shadows retaliated, lashing out, angry and relentless. They shrieked louder, echoing off the walls, "You cannot escape the truth. You are ours." As the air thickened and despair threatened to choke her, the child's voice morphed into a spine-tingling wail. Clenching her fists, Lily felt her heart race. The truth was clawing at her mind, desperate to consume her. "Max!" she screamed, feeling the ground tremble beneath her feet, the walls closing in once more. Could she summon enough courage to face what was coming? Did the truth even matter if it meant sacrificing everything? Dread pooled in her stomach, freezing her blood as she realized she wasn't alone anymore. Figures emerged from the shadows, faces obscured but eyes gleaming with malice. Just when her hope began to flicker out, she felt a chilling breeze sweep through the hall, carrying with it a familiar scent of grass, of childhood, of the playground. It wrapped tight around her, teasing memories, but with them came an unsettling realization. Lily suddenly understood. What if the darkness she had run from only wanted her to confront her own fears? What if this wasn't the end, but a new beginning in a twisted, horrific dance with the past? And just as a grotesque face lunged towards her, everything went black, swallowed by the darkness she had fought so hard against. "Where am I now?" she thought desperately. "Has this been part of my journey all along?" The unsettling silence pressed in on her, filled with expectation. What awaited her in the depths of her reckoning? Would she find the truth or doom herself to the shadows forever? The void swallowed Lily whole, a cocoon of darkness that cocooned her like a shroud. She could still feel the remnants of the past tugging at her mind, each memory a whisper pulling her deeper into the abyss. Panic struck like lightning, causing her to gasp for breath, but the silence consumed her cries. Where was she? The weight of unanswered questions pressed heavily on her chest. She turned, straining to pierce the inky blackness that surrounded her, but it felt like being trapped underwater, every movement sluggish and disorienting. "Max?" she called, her voice barely a whisper echoing endlessly. "Where are you?" Silence answered. No reassurance, no sign of life. Just the sound of her own heart racing, the rhythm of terror drumming in her ears. Then came a soft rustle, a sound so faint that for a moment she doubted its existence. But then it grew louder, a scraping of nails against a wall, a hiss of breathing too close for comfort. "Join us," the shadows breathed, their voices a twisted melody that lured her with promises of clarity. Suddenly, a faint glow flickered in the distance. It pulsed erratically, drawing her like a moth to a flame. She moved hesitantly, each step echoing in the void like a drumbeat of dread. "It can't be, could it?" Hope surged, but doubt mingled with it, poisoning her thoughts. "Is this a trap?" The glow intensified, revealing a room suffused with a sickly green light. Walls lined with mirrors distorted her reflection, twisting her features into grotesque parodies of herself. "What is happening?" she gasped, stumbling backward, but those reflections had their own lives, smiling menacingly at her, mocking her fear. A voice spoke from her left, soft and seductive. "Look at how lost you are, Lily. A reflection of your true self. You can't escape." It was the child, the hollow-eyed girl from earlier, standing beyond the glass, reaching out. "Embrace it." Lily felt her skin crawl. "Get away from me!" She backed away, but the mirrors reflected not just the child but dark figures creeping closer, shadowy silhouettes with outstretched arms. "Do you really think you can hide?" The whispers slithered from the mirrors, each syllable a claw scraping against her sanity. "You are nothing without us. You will always belong to the darkness." "Shut up! I'm more than this!" she screamed, clamping her hands over her ears to drown out their taunts, wishing desperately for silence. But the mirrors shattered, sending shards flying. They glinted like stars in the sick green light, and with every piece that fell, she felt a part of herself unravel. In that moment, the warmth of Max flooded her memory again, his presence a bright light cutting through the chaos. With it came determination. "I will not be lost!" she cried, charging toward the array of reflections. She reached out, feeling the cool glass shatter beneath her fingers, shards falling away to reveal nothing. Just an endless void, vast and unyielding, stretching into infinity. Her breath quickened. "Max!" she called, her voice breaking, ricocheting off the walls of despair. From the darkness ahead, she heard his voice. "Lily, find me." It was faint but full of yearning, a call to action that wrapped around her heart like a lifeline. "The shadows don't own me," she shouted back defiantly. Heart racing, she pressed forward into the void, the remnants of shattered mirrors falling away behind her like a lost past. The ground shifted beneath her, tremors shaking her resolve as the shadows writhed in fury around her. "Fleeing will only lead you deeper," they hissed, their voices mingling with Max's call, twisting and distorting as if they were battling for dominance over her mind. Lily gritted her teeth, pushing against the tide of darkness. "No more lies!" she screamed, feeling a surge of inner power. But just as she thought she could break free, hands gripped her shoulders from behind, cold and clammy, dragging her down. "You cannot escape your fate!" the shadows shrieked. With one last effort, she turned, swinging wildly. "Let me go!" As they sank deeper into the abyss, her vision narrowed on a single point of light in the distance, the promise of Max, an image of safety. She felt herself pulled sideways, caught between two worlds. Just as she was about to break free, a deafening roar erupted, the darkness clenching around her, clawing to drag her back into its depths. "Lily!" Max's voice echoed, infused with urgency. "Trust me. Do you see the path?" Struggling within the clutches of despair, the light flickered like a dying star across her mind. The question loomed: could she really find her way back, or was she destined to be swallowed whole by the shadows? Every ounce of courage summoned, every fear faced, pulsed through her veins. What awaited on the other side of that struggle? Would the light illuminate her way home, or would she be lost forever? Lily's body trembled as the darkness clawed at her. The shadows writhed, hissing and whispering their cacophony of despair. But amidst the torment, a flicker of strength rose within her. The memory of Max anchored her, guiding her through the tumult. Lily! You can do this! Max's voice echoed clearer now, igniting a spark within her. She remembered the warmth of his hands, their laughter shared over late-night ice cream, and how he had always been her light in the dark. Yes. I am not weak! She shouted defiantly, her voice mingling with the howls of the shadows. The images of her childhood, not just the fear, but the laughter too, flooded back. The playful moments, the joy of being alive, the unconditional love she shared with her family. Everything she felt, everything she had buried deep was here. I choose life. Without further thought, she lunged toward the glimmering light ahead, feeling every ounce of dread fade as she charged forward, empowered by each memory. We will consume you! The shadows screeched, their twisted faces creeping closer, arms outstretched. But at that moment she felt something stir within the very core of her being. I don't belong to you! She yelled, fear replacing bravado and pulling at her resolve. I stand alone against you! Suddenly, the key in her pocket ignited with warmth, reflecting her emotions, a key to her truth, her destiny. It shimmered brighter, pulsating with the energy of the light surrounding her. She held it tightly, raising it high, feeling its connection to something deeper, something real. In one sweeping motion, Lily threw the key into the air, and as it arched through the darkness, a brilliant light exploded, fracturing the veil of shadows. The grotesque figures shrieked, recoiling as if burned upon contact with the light. Max! She called again, moving toward the growing luminescence that now illuminated everything around her. The shadows began to peel away like old wallpaper, revealing glimpses of her past, flickering images of herself as a child, carefree and joyous, running through a playground filled with laughter. And there, just beyond the edge of the light, was Max. His face was illuminated, his eyes shining with hope and fear. Lily! Come on! He stretched out his hand, and in that moment, every ounce of hesitation fell away. No more running! She cried, dashing forward as the light enveloped her. She grasped Max's hand, feeling the warmth and strength surge through her once more. Together, they burst through the boundary of shadows, the darkness collapsing behind them as they emerged into a bright world, a familiar playground bathed in sunlight, colors blooming around them with the vibrancy of childhood. Lily flung her arms around Max, a tide of relief washing over her. We did it! She gasped, overwhelmed by the sheer joy of freedom. We're free! But in the back of her mind, whispers still lingered, echoes of what they had faced. Goodbye, shadows, she murmured, a shiver passing through her. You can't have me anymore. Still grasping Max's hand, she looked around. The playground was empty, but children's laughter echoed in the distance. She felt connection with everything around her, the trees, the sky, the ground beneath her feet, and she understood now. The darkness hadn't truly been defeated. I think we'll always carry a piece of them with us, Max said softly, a knowing look in his eyes. Yeah, Lily's heart felt heavy but hopeful. But that's okay. I choose to face whatever comes next. Together. With a newfound strength, they stepped away from the shadows, walking hand in hand into an unknown future where light awaited them. And as the echoes of their past faded, they took the first steps toward healing, toward a life shining with possibility. Together they would face the world, no longer afraid, not alone. Now that you've reached the end of the journey, don't just walk away. You need to subscribe now to the channel for more heart-pounding tales that will send shivers down your spine. Smash that like button to show your support, and help feed the algorithm. Flood the comments with your reactions, thoughts, and theories about the ending. What do you think really happened? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to dive into this chilling conclusion. This is the moment to show your support, and only true fans know how important it is to keep the story alive.